You know what's crazy? Most of us start with fire, but we forget the foundation. When you first start building something, whether it's your dream, your business, your body, your relationship, you start with this raw, unstoppable energy. You're hungry. You're desperate. You wake up early. You stay up late. And you talk about how this time it's different. You tell yourself, I'm all in. You post about it. You write about it. You live and breathe it. But somewhere along the line, something changes. That fire that used to wake you up at 4 a.m. starts to fade, and you can't figure out why. It's because you built with emotion, not foundation. You started with passion, but you forgot to lay down discipline, structure, and patience. The stuff that keeps your dream standing when the excitement dies. When you start building a house, the first thing you do is dig. You don't start decorating. You don't start painting. You dig. You lay the foundation deep enough to hold the weight of what's coming. But most people don't want to dig. They just want to decorate. They want to show off progress before there's real progress. You want to look successful before you've even built something solid. That's why the moment life tests you, the whole thing comes crashing down, because it wasn't built on discipline. It was built on emotion. Emotion can get you started, but it can't keep you there. Emotion is temporary. Discipline is permanent. You need something deeper than a feeling to carry you through when the feeling fades. Let me tell you something. Starting is easy. Everybody starts. Everybody can get excited for a week. Everybody can make a vision board. But the grind doesn't care about your mood. The grind doesn't care about how you feel today. You think construction workers wake up every day feeling excited to pour concrete? You think athletes wake up excited to train in the cold? No, but they understand something most people don't. If the foundation isn't right, nothing you build will last. You can have the most beautiful design in the world, but if the base is weak, it's just a matter of time before it crumbles. You keep wondering why every time you start something new, it falls apart after a few months. It's not because you're unlucky. It's because you built it on motivation instead of discipline. You built it on hype instead of habit. You told yourself you'd do as long as it was easy, but that's not building. That's pretending. Real builders know it's not sexy. It's not flashy. It's not something you can post about every day. It's repetition. It's consistency. It's doing the same thing over and over, even when you're bored, tired, or not getting results yet. Most people start because they want to be seen, not because they want to be stable. You're chasing exposure before you've built endurance. You want people to notice you before you've proven to yourself that you can handle being unnoticed. And that's why you tear down what you build, because you're not ready for the quiet part of success. You're not ready for the lonely nights when no one's clapping for you. You're not ready to build in silence. You can't just get inspired. You've got to get organized. You've got to plan. You've got to structure your goals. Passion without a plan is just chaos. Passion will have you sprinting when you should be pacing. Passion will have you burning out when you should be building up. You keep starting projects. You never finish because you never put systems in place. You didn't build habits. You just built hype. That's why everything you build keeps collapsing, because you were depending on your excitement instead of your execution. Let me tell you something. Success isn't about how loud you start. It's about how long you last. Some of you keep rebuilding the same dream over and over again because you refuse to master the boring stuff. You don't want to schedule. You don't want to plan. You don't want to measure progress. You just want to feel good about saying I'm grinding, but saying it isn't the same as living it. The reason some people seem unstoppable is because they don't depend on excitement. They depend on structure. They do what needs to be done, whether they feel like it or not. You ever seen somebody who goes to the gym for 2 weeks straight and then disappears for 2 months? That's what we do with our dreams. We go hard for 2 weeks, then we stop because the pain kicks in. But listen, the pain is part of the process. You can't build a body without soreness. You can't build a dream without struggle. You keep quitting every time it gets uncomfortable, not realizing that the discomfort is shaping you into the kind of person who can sustain success. You tear down what you build because you never allowed the process to build you. The foundation is built in the dark. It's built in silence. It's built in the hours nobody sees. That's where your discipline grows. You think success is the result of some big dramatic moment. No, it's 1,000 quiet decisions you make when nobody's watching. When you say, I'll do it tomorrow, and then you do it today. When you say, I'm tired, but you show up anyway. That's foundation. That's what keeps your structure from falling apart. The reason you tear down what you build is because you never gave your dream roots. You built high, but not deep. You went for height without depth. You were so focused on how big it could look, you forgot how strong it needed to be. You can't expect skyscraper results with shack foundations. Every level you climb adds weight to your structure. And if your base can't carry that weight, you'll collapse under success. That's why some people lose everything right after they get it, because they weren't built to sustain it. You've got to understand that greatness has layers. You don't pour the concrete once and walk away. You've got to maintain it. You've got to inspect it. You've got to reinforce it. Every new level of success requires a new level of discipline. The same mindset that helped you start won't be enough to help you sustain. You can't depend on yesterday's effort to hold up tomorrow's blessing. You've got to evolve your foundation as your dream grows. You can't just want it. You've got to work it. And I mean really work it. You've got to get uncomfortable with consistency. You've got to stop chasing moments and start mastering habits. Because the truth is, your life doesn't fall apart overnight. It cracks slowly, one small compromise at a time. Every time you say just this once, every time you skip a day, every time you let your emotions decide your effort, you weaken the structure. You're not losing your dream, you're leaking it. And let's be real, most of us don't fail because of big disasters. We fail because of small neglects. We don't check our foundation. We stop doing the little things that got us here. We stop being hungry. We stop learning. We stop staying humble. And then one day we wake up wondering why it all fell apart. It didn't happen overnight. It happened every time you said, I'll get serious tomorrow. You got to stop tearing down what you build by being inconsistent with yourself. You say you want success, but you keep operating like you're playing a game. You can't flirt with greatness. You've got to marry it. You've got to commit to it even when it stops being exciting. You've got to do it when nobody's watching, when nobody's praising you, when nobody even believes in you. Because the moment you stop showing up for yourself, the foundation starts cracking. So I'm asking you right now, what are you building on? Are you building on emotion, or are you building on endurance? Because emotion will quit when it hurts, but endurance will keep you going. Emotion is fragile. Endurance is unbreakable. Stop depending on how you feel and start depending on what you've committed to. Feelings are temporary, but your foundation can be eternal if you build it right. You can't just build something once and walk away. You've got to protect it. You've got to nurture it. You've got to revisit it every day. If you built a dream last year and it's falling apart now, don't blame life. Rebuild your foundation. Reinforce it with new habits. Cement it with discipline. Strengthen it with patience. Because once the foundation is solid, no storm can destroy it. That's why we tear down what we build, because we forget what real building takes. It's not about the hype. It's not about the crowd. It's not about being seen. It's about being solid. Every brick, every habit, every choice, it all adds up. And if you do it right, what you build will not only stand, it'll inspire others to start building too. Comfort kills consistency. That's the truth most people don't want to face. You grind, you sacrifice, you fight, you claw your way to a level you've never been at before. And then the moment you get there, the fire goes out. You start slowing down, you start getting comfortable, you stop doing the very things that got you that breakthrough in the first place. You used to wake up early because you were hungry. You used to study, plan, hustle because you had something to prove. But now you're comfortable. And comfort is the enemy of growth. Comfort whispers in your ear, you've done enough. Comfort tells you, take it easy. But what you don't realize is that comfort is quietly robbing you of everything you fought to earn. When you were broke, you were disciplined. When you were overlooked, you were focused. When nobody believed in you, you had energy, passion, purpose. You moved with urgency. You had something to fight for. But now you've got a little success, a little recognition, a little comfort, and suddenly that same hunger is gone. You're full now. You're satisfied with less. You start making excuses instead of progress. You start protecting what you have instead of chasing what you could become. That's how comfort kills consistency. It makes you forget who you were before you had anything. The worst thing that can happen to a person isn't failure, it's comfort. Because failure teaches you. Failure humbles you. Failure forces you to grow. But comfort numbs you. It makes you think you're fine when you're really fading. You're still showing up, but not like before. You're still grinding, but not at the same intensity. You're still working, but the fire isn't there. You've lowered your standards without even noticing. You tell yourself, I deserve a break. But that break becomes a habit, and that habit becomes your downfall. You can't stay consistent when you're comfortable because consistency lives in discomfort. Every person who has achieved greatness knows that the second you get comfortable, you start dying. Progress only happens when you stretch, when you push, when you step outside what feels good. You grow when you're tired. You evolve when you're uncertain. You rise when you keep going despite wanting to quit. The grind doesn't live in comfort. It lives in pain. And if you're too afraid to stay in that uncomfortable place, you'll never reach the next level. Most people think once they've made it to a certain point, the work gets easier. No, the higher you go, the harder it gets. The more you achieve, the more discipline you need, because now the world is watching. Now the stakes are higher. Now you can't afford to slip. But comfort tricks you into thinking you can relax. It makes you forget that the same hunger that built your foundation has to build your future. You can't keep yesterday's fire alive with today's laziness. Let me make it plain. Comfort is a thief that looks like a reward. It feels good. It feels earned. It feels safe. But what it's really doing is slowly destroying the very discipline that made you who you are. You used to get up at 5 a.m. Now it's 7. You used to read, learn, and grow every day. Now you scroll, relax, and waste time. You used to attack every goal with intensity. Now you tell yourself you'll get to it later. Later becomes next week becomes next month, and before you know it, your momentum is gone. Comfort doesn't take everything at once. It drains you slowly, quietly, and completely. That's why consistency is so hard to maintain, because it demands that you keep doing what you did before success, after success. It's not just about reaching a goal. It's about maintaining the grind after you reach it. You can't just love the climb. You got to love the maintenance. You got to love the discipline it takes to stay sharp even when you've already won. You can't be satisfied with one victory because there's always another mountain to climb, another level to reach. Comfort tells you to celebrate too long, but the greats, they celebrate briefly, then they get back to work. When you're comfortable, you start lying to yourself. You say, I'm still working hard, but you know deep down, you've slowed down, you've lowered the bar, you're not holding yourself to the same standard, you're not giving the same energy, the same focus, the same passion. You're playing not to lose instead of playing to win. Comfort changes your mindset from offensive to defensive. And when you start playing defense with your dreams, you've already started losing. You've got to be honest with yourself. When was the last time you gave 120%? When was the last time you pushed yourself to exhaustion? When was the last time you did something that scared you? When was the last time you grew uncomfortable for your goals? Because if you can't remember, then comfort has already set in. The moment you stop being challenged, you stop growing. You can't expect consistency from a life built around ease. You can't stay sharp living soft. There's a reason the best athletes in the world still train like they're rookies. They know the moment they get comfortable, someone hungrier will take their spot. Comfort makes you forget the competition. Comfort makes you believe you've got time. Comfort makes you underestimate how fast life can change. You think your position is safe, your success is permanent, but it's not. The same energy it took to get to the top is the same energy it takes to stay there. You can't relax your standards and expect your results to remain. You've got to treat success like it's rented, not owned. Every day, you've got to pay the rent again. And the rent is due in sweat, in effort, in sacrifice. The day you stop paying, they'll take it back. Comfort will convince you that the rent's paid forever. It'll tell you you've done enough. But consistency knows better. It knows the price never stops. You've got to get up every single day and earn it again. The reason most people never reach their full potential is because they think reaching one level means they've made it. No, you just made it there. That's not the finish line. That's a checkpoint. And the moment you settle at a checkpoint, you lose sight of the mission. The mission doesn't end when you achieve something. It ends when you stop growing. Comfort makes you forget that there's more inside you. It makes you think the story's over when it's just beginning. You have to fight comfort the same way you fought for success. You have to look it in the eye and say, you're not taking what I've built. You've got to remind yourself what it cost you to get here, the sacrifices, the sleepless nights, the rejection, the struggle. Don't disrespect all that pain by letting comfort undo it. You can't forget the hunger that got you here. You've got to protect that hunger like your life depends on it, because in many ways it does. Every time you choose comfort over consistency, you're telling your dream it doesn't matter anymore. You're telling your purpose that convenience means more than greatness. And every time you do that, you shrink, you get weaker, you lose momentum. But every time you push through, every time you reject comfort and stay consistent, you grow stronger, you get sharper, you get closer to the version of yourself that doesn't quit. You got to live like you're still chasing it, even when you've caught it, because comfort will trick you into thinking you've arrived. But consistency knows there's always another level. There's always more to learn, more to do, more to give. You've got to build routines that challenge you. You've got to surround yourself with people who push you, not people who let you relax. You've got to constantly reset your standard, raise your bar, and test your limits. Comfort makes you lazy, but consistency makes you legendary. The difference between good and great isn't talent, it's endurance. It's the ability to stay disciplined long after the feeling fades. The greats don't wait for motivation, they operate from purpose. They show up no matter what. They don't let comfort decide how much effort they give. They let their mission decide. You've got to have a mission that matters more than your mood. So stop letting comfort slow you down. Stop letting a little success make you soft. You didn't come this far just to come this far. You didn't fight through all that pain just to sit back and relax. You didn't climb out of rock bottom just to settle for average. You've got to keep that fire burning. You've got to remind yourself every day, I'm not done yet. Because the moment you think you're done, comfort wins. And comfort only wins when you stop moving. If you want to stay consistent, you've got to make discomfort your friend. You've got to live in that tension between who you are and who you could be. Every day, you've got to choose the hard thing. Because the hard thing builds habits, and habits build consistency, and consistency builds greatness. Stop chasing comfort, chase challenge. Because the truth is, the moment you stop challenging yourself, you start changing backwards. Comfort might make you feel safe today, but it'll cost you everything tomorrow. Stay hungry, stay sharp, stay consistent, because comfort doesn't care about your dreams, but consistency will make them real. You know what's wild? Some of us are not losing because life is hard. We're losing because we keep tearing down our own success. We sabotage ourselves. We destroy what we build, not because we can't do it, but because deep down we don't believe we deserve it. That's the truth. Nobody wants to say out loud. We work hard for something. We finally get it, and then we start doing things to mess it up. You finally get the job and you start showing up late. You finally get the relationship and you stop giving effort. You finally get an opportunity and suddenly you're making excuses. That's not bad luck. That's self-sabotage. That's you fighting yourself because you still don't believe you belong where you are. You can't receive what you don't believe you deserve. You know what I'm saying? You can't hold on to greatness when you're carrying guilt. You can't maintain blessings when your mindset is still stuck in brokenness. You keep telling yourself you want success, but when it finally shows up, you start doubting, second guessing, overthinking. You start hearing that little voice that says, you're not ready for this. You're not good enough. You don't belong here. That's not life talking. That's your insecurity screaming. And if you don't silence it, it'll convince you to destroy the very thing you prayed for. You've got to understand something. Success will expose what you believe about yourself. When you get blessed, your character gets tested. You can't hide from who you are anymore. You can't fake it, because when you're struggling, you have a reason to grind. But when you start winning, you've got to deal with yourself. You've got to deal with the parts of you that don't feel worthy of winning. And if you don't heal those parts, you'll sabotage every opportunity that comes your way. That's why some of you keep repeating the same cycle. You start something, it grows, and then it falls apart. You tell yourself it's bad timing or bad luck, but it's not that. It's you. You're tearing down what you build because somewhere deep inside, you still see yourself as the underdog. You're addicted to struggle. You don't know how to exist without chaos. So when peace and progress show up, it feels unfamiliar. It feels wrong. You start looking for something to fix because you're not used to things going right. You confuse stability with boredom. And so you create drama just to feel alive again. That's what happens when you've been broken for too long. Healing feels uncomfortable. You've been through so much pain that success feels suspicious. You can't trust it. You think every blessing has a catch. So you start testing it, pushing boundaries, making mistakes on purpose just to see if it'll all fall apart. Because in your mind, that's what always happens. That's the story you've told yourself, I always lose. And until you rewrite that story, you'll keep making it come true. You've got to change your identity before you can change your results. You can't keep calling yourself a loser and expect to win. You can't keep thinking you're unworthy and expect to attract abundance. The universe, God, whatever you believe in, it responds to what you believe about yourself. If you keep saying, I'm not good enough, life will prove you right. Every time an opportunity comes, you'll find a reason to back away. You'll find a reason to mess it up because your mind will always try to return to the level it believes it belongs. Listen to me. If your mindset is stuck in survival mode, you'll never know how to live in success mode. You've spent so long just trying to make it through the day that when something good happens, you don't know what to do with it. You think this can't be real. Something's about to go wrong. That thought becomes a prophecy. You start acting anxious, desperate, careless, and then things actually go wrong. Not because they were supposed to, but because you created that outcome. You've got to stop fighting the good things in your life. Stop assuming every blessing is a setup for disappointment. Stop questioning why good things are happening to you. Start asking why you think they shouldn't. Stop apologizing for your growth. Stop shrinking yourself so other people won't feel small. Stop playing down your progress so people won't think you've changed. You're supposed to change. You're supposed to grow. You're supposed to evolve. You've worked for this. You've sacrificed for this. Don't let guilt make you throw away what grace gave you. Let me tell you something. You don't get to the next level by proving you're worthy. You get there by accepting that you already are. You've already paid the price. You've already done the work. You've already been through the fire. So why do you still act like you don't deserve the blessing that came after the battle? You survived what was meant to break you, and you still don't think you're enough? That's crazy. You've got to stop tearing yourself down with old stories that no longer define you. Every time you sabotage your success, what you're really saying is, I don't trust myself to handle good things. You're telling yourself that failure feels safer than growth because failure is familiar. You've lived there before. You know how to recover from pain, but you don't know how to relax in peace. That's why you keep going back to toxic situations. That's why you keep picking the same type of people. That's why you keep quitting right before the breakthrough, because part of you is still addicted to the chaos that once defined you. You've got to break that addiction. You've got to learn how to feel safe in success. You've got to teach yourself that peace is not a trap. It's your new home. You've got to tell yourself, I deserve this. Not because you're perfect, but because you persevered. Not because you've never failed, but because you've never quit. You've got to stop treating your blessings like they're borrowed. They're yours. You earned them. When you start believing that you deserve to win, you'll stop finding ways to lose. When you start believing that you're capable, you'll stop sabotaging your progress. The moment you accept that you belong, you'll stop seeking validation. You'll stop chasing approval. You'll stop comparing yourself to others. You'll realize that what's yours is yours and nobody can take it unless you give it away. You can't live free while holding on to guilt. You can't receive love while holding on to shame. You can't grow while holding on to fear. You've got to release all that. You've got to forgive yourself for the mistakes you made when you didn't know better. You've got to forgive yourself for the times you quit, the times you failed, the times you hurt people or hurt yourself. That's part of the process. You're human. You're not perfect, but you're still worthy. You're still chosen. You're still capable. You've got to understand success doesn't mean you stop feeling fear. It means you stop letting fear make your decisions. You might feel unworthy sometimes, but you can't let that stop you. You can feel doubt, but still move forward. You can feel scared, but still act, because the only way to prove to yourself that you deserve success is to keep showing up for it. Every day you stay consistent. Every day you keep growing. You're rewriting the narrative. You're proving to yourself that you are enough. The enemy isn't out there. It's in here. It's the voice that says you can't do this. It's the belief that you're not special, that you're not capable, that you'll never be more than what you were. But listen, that voice is lying. That voice was built by years of pain, rejection, and doubt. But you're not that person anymore. You've grown. You've evolved. You've done too much to still be haunted by old insecurities. You've got to start treating yourself like someone worth fighting for. Stop tearing down what you've built every time things get good. Stop making fear your architect. You spent years building something beautiful. Don't let doubt destroy it. Protect it. Nurture it. Stand on it, because you built it with your own hands. Nobody gave it to you. Nobody handed it to you. You earned it. Every time you get close to success, you've got to remind yourself, I deserve to be here. Say it until you believe it. Because if you don't, you'll keep throwing away opportunities that were made for you. You'll keep giving up on yourself right before the breakthrough. You'll keep tearing down what you build because you don't trust yourself to hold it. But the truth is, you've been ready. You've always been ready. You just needed to believe it. So stop sabotaging your blessings. Stop letting fear write your story. Stop letting guilt guide your actions. You've done enough surviving. It's time to start thriving. It's time to stop fighting against your own greatness. The battle isn't with the world anymore. It's with the version of you that still doesn't believe you deserve to win. Defeat that version, and you'll never tear down what you build again. We forget the pain that pushed us. That's the truth that most people don't want to admit. When you were struggling, when you were broke, when you were overlooked, when nobody believed in you, that pain lit a fire inside you. It made you get up early, stay up late, grind harder than everybody else. You were hungry, desperate, focused. Every no fueled you. Every door that slammed in your face made you hungrier. You wanted to prove something to the world and to yourself. But then what happens? You start to rise. You start winning a little. You get comfortable. You stop feeling that same urgency. You forget the tears, the rejection, the sleepless nights. You forget how bad it felt to be at the bottom. You forget that the pain was your teacher. The pain was your motivator. And when you forget the pain that pushed you, you lose the power that built you. That's why some people climb high and then fall. Not because they stopped being talented, not because the opportunities disappeared, but because they forgot what it took to get there. They forgot what it felt like to have nothing. They forgot what it cost to build everything. They got soft. They got casual. They started talking like they'd arrived, but forgot the road they traveled. And I'm telling you right now, when you forget your pain, you disconnect from your purpose. You stop doing the things that made you strong. You stop living with gratitude. You stop being hungry. And the moment you lose hunger, you start tearing down what you built. Every champion remembers their struggle. You think the greats forget? You think Michael Jordan forgot being cut from his high school team? You think Oprah forgot being fired from her first TV job? You think Eric Thomas forgot being homeless, sleeping in abandoned buildings? No. They remember that pain like it was yesterday, because that pain reminds them why they can't go back. That pain is their fuel. That pain keeps them grateful, keeps them humble, keeps them moving forward. The problem is most people want the success, but not the struggle. They want the reward without remembering the reason. They want to enjoy the view from the top without ever looking down to see how far they've come. And when you stop remembering, you start repeating. You go right back to the same cycle of building and tearing down, winning and losing, starting and stopping. The truth is, pain is not your enemy. Forgetting it is. Pain is a teacher. And when you ignore what it taught you, you set yourself up to repeat the same lessons. That's why some people keep losing the same job, breaking the same relationships, quitting the same goals. Because they forgot what it took to grow. They forgot the lessons from the last fall. You can't build something lasting if you keep erasing your own history. You can't appreciate the harvest if you forget the seeds you planted in the storm. The struggle was necessary. The hurt was necessary. the rejection, the failure, the loneliness, it all shaped you. But when life gets easy, we stop reflecting. We stop revisiting the pain. We start pretending like we've always been this strong, this confident, this successful. And that's when we start to crumble. I've seen people build something powerful, a business, a marriage, a body, a mindset, and destroy it all because they lost touch with their story. They forgot who they were before the success. They started believing their own hype. They stopped grinding like they were still hungry. And when you lose the memory of your hunger, you lose the reason to fight. You start expecting things to come to you instead of chasing them down. You start waiting for motivation instead of manufacturing it. And that's when everything you've built begins to fall apart. Not because of outside pressure, but because you let your own comfort eat away at your discipline. Sometimes you have to revisit your pain on purpose. You've got to remember where you came from. Go back in your mind to those nights when you cried yourself to sleep, wondering if you'd ever make it. Go back to those days when you were so broke you had to count coins just to eat. Go back to when people doubted you, when you had to fight for every opportunity. Don't stay there, but remember it. Remember it so you never get lazy. Remember it so you stay grateful. Remember it so you never disrespect the grind that got you here. Because if you forget, you'll start thinking you don't have to fight anymore. You'll start treating your blessings like they're guaranteed. You'll start letting excuses slide, cutting corners, showing up late, giving half effort. And before you know it, the structure starts to crack. When you were struggling, you didn't have the luxury of excuses. You didn't have time to procrastinate. You had to move or you'd sink. You had to work or you'd starve. That's what made you dangerous. That's what made you great. But now you've got a little money, a little comfort, a little status, and you think you can coast. You think you can relax. You forget that the world doesn't stop. You forget that someone else out there is still hungry, still grinding, still chasing the same thing you have. They remember their pain, and that's why they're coming for your spot. So if you want to keep what you built, you got to remember what it costs. You've got to remind yourself daily of the fire that once burned inside you. Gratitude is what keeps the pain from being wasted. When you remember the struggle, you value the blessing. You take care of it. You protect it. You grow it. You stop tearing down your progress with laziness or ego because you understand how much it took to build. But when you forget the pain, you start taking your success for granted. You stop protecting it. You stop nurturing it. You stop evolving. You become your own enemy. And I promise you, if you forget what it felt like to lose, you'll stop doing what it takes to win. You can't move forward if you forget your foundation. Every time life knocks you down, you've got to remember what it taught you. Every time you face hardship, don't run from it. Learn from it. Write it down. Reflect on it. Let it mold you. Because the moment you start pretending like the pain never happened, you strip away your strength. You tear down the walls you built with your blood, sweat, and tears. Don't let comfort destroy your character. Don't let success silence your story. Keep that memory alive. Keep that hunger alive. That pain is your reminder of what's at stake, of who you were and who you never want to be again. So the next time you start to feel tired, lazy, or ungrateful, just remember where you came from. Remember what it took to build everything you have, and never, ever forget the pain that pushed you. Ego replaces humility. That's where the downfall begins. You see, when you start winning, when people start clapping for you, when they start putting your name in lights, something dangerous starts to grow inside. That little voice that whispers, you did this by yourself. That voice that makes you forget the late nights, the help you got, the people who believed in you when nobody else did. That voice that makes you think you're untouchable, that you've arrived, that you can stop doing the small things that made you great. That's ego. And ego is the silent destroyer of everything you build. You spend years laying a strong foundation, discipline, patience, humility. And then one day you let pride walk in and it starts knocking down the walls from the inside. When you're humble, you're hungry. You listen, you learn, you grow. You take criticism, not as an insult, but as a tool. You want to be better. But the moment ego steps in, you stop listening. You stop learning. You start believing your own hype. You start thinking you can skip steps. You stop showing up early. Stop studying. Stop improving. Because in your mind, you're already that person. You're already the best. You stop grinding like you did when you had something to prove. But the truth is, the moment you stop grinding is the moment you start falling. Ego is like a virus that slowly eats away at your discipline until you don't even recognize yourself anymore. You used to wake up hungry. Now you wake up entitled. You used to be grateful for opportunity. Now you expect it. You used to thank people for feedback. Now you get offended. That's what ego does. It blinds you to reality. I've seen people destroy everything they worked for because they couldn't stay humble. They thought success made them immune to failure. They thought they could disrespect the process. They forgot that the same grind that got them to the top is the same grind that keeps them there. When you forget humility, you forget the process. You forget what it took to climb. You forget that you still have more to learn. And when you stop learning, you start dying. Maybe not physically, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually. The world keeps moving, but you stay stuck in your pride. You start making bad decisions because you think you can't be wrong. You start pushing away people who care because they challenge your thinking. You surround yourself with yes men who feed your ego instead of truth tellers who feed your growth. And before you know it, what you built starts crumbling. Ego and humility can't live in the same space. One builds, the other destroys. When you were humble, you were coachable. You didn't care about titles or recognition. You were just focused on getting better. But now ego tells you that learning is beneath you, that apologizing is weakness, that changing your mind means losing power. You start protecting your image instead of your integrity. And once you start doing that, you're no longer building your dream. You're managing your downfall because ego doesn't let you evolve. Ego locks you in yesterday's version of success. It tells you you've made it while the world keeps changing, while the competition keeps growing, while the hunger you once had gets colder every day. Humility isn't weakness. It's strength. It takes strength to admit when you're wrong. It takes strength to ask for help. It takes strength to learn from people who might have less experience, but more perspective. Ego won't let you do that. Ego makes you defensive, prideful, closed-minded, and closed minds never grow. That's why so many people reach a peak and never climb higher. Not because they can't, but because their pride won't let them. They refuse to go back to student mode. They refuse to be teachable. But humility says, I've come far, but I can go further. Humility says there's always more to learn. And that's what keeps you moving forward. When ego takes over, it convinces you that you don't need to change. But success requires constant adjustment. The same strategy that got you here might not take you there. The same mindset that helped you survive might not help you thrive. You need to evolve, but ego hates evolution. It hates anything that challenges comfort. That's why you start rejecting feedback, dismissing mentors, isolating yourself. You think you're protecting your pride, but you're really destroying your progress. Ego tells you lies. It tells you that being right is more important than being better. It tells you that reputation matters more than reality. And that's why people lose everything, because they were so busy defending their pride that they didn't protect their purpose. Look at the people who truly last, the ones who stay at the top for decades. You'll find humility. You'll find curiosity. You'll find gratitude. They still ask questions. They still study. They still show up early. They still remember where they came from. They don't let fame or success make them forget their foundation. That's why they keep building, because they know pride comes before the fall, and ego has no loyalty. It will hype you up today and leave you stranded tomorrow. The moment you believe you don't need growth, you've already started shrinking. The moment you stop respecting the process, you've already started losing. Ego makes you forget that success is temporary if you stop maintaining it. You think your name will carry you forever, but names fade. What lasts is work ethic, character, consistency. You think you can coast because you've earned it, but success doesn't care about yesterday. It demands effort today. Ego says you deserve rest. Humility says you've got more to give. Ego says you're better than them. Humility says you can learn from anyone. Ego says you've arrived. Humility says you're still becoming. That's the difference between people who build and people who destroy. One keeps learning, the other keeps losing. Can't pour into others when ego fills your cup. You can't receive wisdom when you think you already have it all. Ego isolates you. It convinces you that you don't need anyone. But every empire was built by a team. Every great vision was achieved through community, through guidance, through feedback. Ego blinds you to that. It makes you forget that you're human, that you still have flaws, that you still need growth. And when you forget that, you start making decisions based on arrogance instead of awareness. You start talking more than you listen. You start competing with people who should be your allies. You start tearing down the very foundation you spent years building. Stay humble, even when you win, especially when you win. Because the bigger you get, the more dangerous your ego becomes. Pride whispers louder when success grows. That's why you've got to remind yourself every day, you're not better than the work. You're not above learning. You're not done growing. You can celebrate, but don't get complacent. You can be confident, but don't get cocky, because the same humility that built you will sustain you. The same hunger that pushed you will protect you. The same discipline that started it all will keep it alive. But the moment you let ego in, it starts eating away at everything, your relationships, your focus, your consistency, your gratitude. So stay grounded, stay teachable, keep your heart open. Don't let the applause distract you from the mission. Remember who you were before the success. Remember the person who worked in silence, who didn't care about validation, who just wanted to make it. That version of you, humble, hungry, focused, that's the one who built everything you have now. Don't let ego erase that person, because the day you stop being humble is the day you start falling apart. And when the lights fade, when the noise stops, when nobody's watching, humility will still be there to remind you it's not about who claps for you. It's about who you become when no one does. We build without healing. That's one of the biggest reasons why so many people tear down what they work so hard to create. We think success will fix what's broken inside us. We think achievements will silence the pain, that money will erase the memories, that fame will make the emptiness go away. But what we don't realize is that when you build on top of pain, that pain becomes part of your foundation. And no matter how tall the structure gets, the cracks underneath will eventually show. You can't outrun what you haven't faced. You can't replace healing with hustle. You can't bury trauma under trophies, because whatever you don't deal with will deal with you later, and it will cost you everything. Some of us learn to survive through strength, through grit, through pretending. We put our heads down and push through. We kept moving. We kept achieving. We kept telling ourselves, if I just get there, I'll be okay. But that never heals you. It only hides you. You start building this life, this image, this success story, but deep down you're still carrying the same pain, the same insecurity, the same fear. You're building a castle on shaky ground, and when pressure hits, when storms come, the walls start to crack. You start reacting from old wounds. You start sabotaging relationships, ruining opportunities, making emotional decisions, not because you're weak, but because you never healed what hurt you. You can't build peace from chaos. You can't create stability from pain. Healing is not optional, it's essential. But too many people treat it like a luxury. They say, I don't have time to deal with that. They think working harder will fix what's wrong inside. They think success will finally make them feel enough. But you can't outwork your wounds. You can't achieve your way out of pain. If you don't take the time to heal, you'll keep repeating the same cycle, building something amazing and then tearing it down with the same broken hands. The unhealed version of you can't sustain the blessings meant for the healed version of you. That's why you see people get everything they prayed for and then lose it, because they weren't emotionally ready to carry it. We live in a world that glorifies strength but ignores healing. We tell people to keep grinding, stay strong, move on, but we don't tell them the process to release, to forgive. We push pain into the background, and then we're surprised when it shows up in our behavior, our choices, our relationships. You can't pour from a wounded heart. You can't love fully, lead fully, or live fully when you're bleeding on everything you touch. You've got to pause and deal with it. You've got to look at what you've been running from. You've got to sit with the hurt until it teaches you something. Because if you don't heal, you'll spend your life building and rebuilding the same broken story. Some of you are still chasing validation because of a wound from childhood. a parent who didn't see you, a teacher who said you wouldn't make it, a moment when you felt worthless. And now you're trying to prove your worth through achievements, through recognition, through applause. But every time the applause stops, you crumble. Because you're not driven by purpose, you're driven by pain. That's why no matter how much you build, it never feels enough. You can't fix a wound by feeding it validation. You've got to heal it with truth. You've got to remind yourself that you are enough, even without the applause. Because until you do, your pain will keep running your progress. It'll keep making your decisions for you. Healing takes courage. It's not glamorous. It's not fast. It's not something you post on social media. It's the quiet work, the crying when no one's watching, the forgiving people who never apologize, the facing parts of yourself you've ignored for years. But that's where real strength is built. You can't call yourself strong if you can't face your own scars. You can't call yourself successful if you can't sit with your soul. True success is not what you build on the outside. It's what you build within. Because if your inner world is broken, your outer world will eventually follow. There are people who have millions in their bank account, but bankruptcy in their hearts. They have followers online, but loneliness in their spirit. They built careers, but lost their peace. They achieved everything they thought would make them whole, but they still feel empty because they built without healing. Healing gives meaning to success. It turns survival into purpose. It transforms pain into power. Without it, you'll keep running from the very thing you need to confront. You'll keep tearing down what you build because the pain you ignore keeps whispering, you're not enough. You don't deserve this. You deserve peace. You deserve freedom. But peace doesn't come from pretending. Freedom doesn't come from ignoring. Healing is not forgetting what happened. It's accepting that it happened and choosing to move forward without letting it control you. It's saying, yes, that broke me, but it won't define me. It's choosing to build again, but this time on solid ground. It's learning to be whole before you try to build a whole life. Because if you're not healed, you'll project your pain onto everything you touch. You'll see betrayal where there's love, competition where there's collaboration, failure where there's growth. You'll interpret the world through your wounds, and that's how you end up destroying what was meant to save you. The healed version of you moves differently. You don't react. You respond. You don't chase, you attract. You don't seek approval. You walk in confidence. You don't tear down. You build with intention. That's why healing is power. It gives you clarity. It gives you balance. It gives you peace in chaos. When you're healed, you no longer need the world to validate your worth. And that's when you start building something that lasts, something rooted in truth, not in pain. The world tells you to be successful. Your soul tells you to be whole. Don't confuse the two. Wholeness will keep you steady when success shakes. Healing will protect you when pressure hits. Because when storms come, and they will, it's not your talent that will keep you standing. It's your foundation. And if that foundation is cracked with pain, guilt, or resentment, no amount of success can save it. You can't run from your pain forever. Eventually, it will find its way back into your life. Through burnout, through anger, through self-doubt, through broken relationships. That's not punishment. That's your soul asking you to stop running and start healing. So take the time. Don't rush the process. You're not weak for needing to heal. You're wise for choosing to. You don't need to have it all together. You just need to be honest about where it hurts. Because the moment you face the pain, it loses its power over you. The moment you forgive, you free yourself. The moment you start healing, you stop tearing down. The stronger your spirit becomes, the more solid your structure will be. And one day you'll look back at everything you built and realize it didn't last because of your talent. It lasted because you took the time to heal the person behind it. That's what separates those who rise and stay from those who rise and fall. Healing isn't just about the past. It's about protecting your future. You can build again, but this time do it from a place of peace, not pain. Don't rush to prove. Don't build to escape. Build to become. Because when you finally heal, you'll stop tearing down what you build and you'll start building something that can never be broken again. We chase validation, not vision. That's one of the most dangerous habits a person can develop. Building your life around what other people think instead of what you're truly called to do. Somewhere along the line, we stopped living for purpose and started performing for approval. We started measuring our worth by likes, comments, followers, applause, and recognition. And the truth is, That's why so many people build something beautiful and then destroy it with their own hands. Because when you build for validation, the moment people stop clapping, you stop believing in yourself. When you build for vision, you can lose everything and still keep going. But when you build for validation, one whisper of criticism can break you. It's easy to get addicted to attention. That dopamine hit when someone says you're amazing or you're killing it. You start needing it. You start craving it. You start shaping your actions to get more of it. And before you know it, you're not building your dream anymore. You're building their approval. You're no longer doing what fulfills you. You're doing what looks good to them. But the problem with living for validation is that it's never enough. The applause always fades. The crowd always moves on. People will celebrate you one moment and question you the next. And if your confidence depends on their approval, you'll live your whole life as a prisoner to opinions that were never meant to define you. You see it everywhere. People chasing trends instead of truth. They follow what's popular instead of what's purposeful. They post, perform, and pretend just to be accepted. But when the lights turn off, when the crowd disappears, when nobody's watching, they feel empty because deep down they know the version of themselves the world claps for isn't the real one. They built an image, not a life. They built attention, not authenticity. That's why so many people tear down their own success, because it was never built for them in the first place. It was built for others, and it's exhausting trying to maintain something that doesn't come from your truth. Validation is a drug. It gives you a temporary high, but it leaves you weaker every time it fades. It keeps you performing, pretending, proving. It makes you forget your why. You start asking, what will they think? Instead of what's right for me. You stop taking risks because you're afraid of looking foolish. You stop speaking your truth because you don't want to offend anyone. You stop creating boldly because you're scared of rejection. You start living in a cage built from other people's opinions and you call it success. But that's not success, that's slavery. Because the more you depend on validation, the less you trust your own voice. Real builders don't need applause, they need alignment. They don't care who's watching because they know who they are and what they're building. That's what separates those who last from those who fade. When you live by vision, you're not controlled by the noise around you. You know what you're chasing and you know why. You don't need people to understand it. You don't need people to like it. You just need to stay consistent, because vision will keep you when validation won't. Vision will push you when nobody's cheering. Vision will remind you of the bigger picture when doubt creeps in. Validation feeds your ego. Vision feeds your purpose. Some people lose themselves trying to be liked. They forget their identity in exchange for acceptance. They shrink their voice to fit someone else's comfort zone. They trade authenticity for approval, and then they wonder why they feel unfulfilled. You can have the crowd's praise and still feel broken. You can have everyone say you made it and still feel lost, because your soul knows when it's pretending. Your spirit knows when you're not aligned with your truth. And until you stop chasing validation, you'll never feel peace, because peace doesn't live where? Performance rules. When you start chasing vision instead, everything changes. You stop asking who's watching and start asking what's required. You stop worrying about being seen and start focusing on being significant. You stop comparing your journey to someone else's highlight reel and start building something that actually matters. Vision gives you endurance. It gives you power. It gives you purpose. Validation makes you fragile. One insult can break you. Vision makes you unstoppable. One failure can't stop you, because when you're guided by vision, you're not moved by emotions or opinions. You're anchored in conviction. The truth is, validation is seductive. It feels good to be admired, respected, acknowledged. But if you're not careful, that same praise will poison your purpose. It will make you addicted to approval and allergic to criticism. You'll start avoiding growth because growth requires humility, and humility often looks like failure to the outside world. You'll start doing what gets attention instead of what creates impact. You'll start trading depth for visibility, and one day you'll look around and realize that the very people you were trying to impress don't even care, because they've already moved on to the next person to applaud. That's why you've got to build something bigger than applause. Build something that still matters when nobody's watching. Build something that makes sense to your soul, not just to your followers. Because when your why is strong enough, you don't need their wow. When you're chasing vision, you don't need everyone to understand. People laughed at the Wright brothers until they flew. They mocked Thomas Edison until the lights turned on. They doubted Steve Jobs until Apple changed the world. Visionaries are often misunderstood, not because they're wrong, but because they're early. Don't destroy your destiny just to be accepted by people who haven't even found theirs. You've got to be okay with building in silence. You've got to be okay with not being liked. You've got to be okay with walking alone for a season, because validation is loud, but purpose is quiet. Validation makes noise, but vision creates legacy. The people who clap for you today might boo you tomorrow. The people who support you now might disappear when the struggle hits. But if you're building for vision, none of that matters. You'll keep showing up. You'll keep grinding. You'll keep believing, because you're not doing it for them. You're doing it for something greater. Some of you need to detox from people's opinions. You need to take a break from needing to be seen, from needing to be praised, from needing to be right. You need to remember what it feels like to move in silence, to grind without validation, to trust your gut again. You don't need their permission to grow. You don't need their approval to rise. You don't need their support to succeed. You just need to realign with your purpose. The right people will find you when you're walking in your truth. But if you're constantly chasing attention, you'll miss your assignment. You can't build a masterpiece if you're worried about every critic. You can't chase greatness if you're chasing applause, because applause is temporary, but purpose is permanent. The vision you carry was given to you for a reason, not for them to validate, but for you to fulfill. And if you don't honor that vision, you'll spend your life pleasing everyone except the person you were born to be. The crowd will never be satisfied. They'll always want more. But your vision, your purpose, your calling, that will always give back what you pour into it. So stop performing, stop proving, stop waiting for people to clap before you move. Just build. Build when no one believes. Build when no one's watching. Build because it's what you were created to do. Because when your work is driven by vision, it will outlast the noise. When it's fueled by purpose, it will stand through rejection. And when it's rooted in truth, it will speak for itself long after the applause fades. Validation can make you feel seen, but vision will make you unforgettable. We live in a world where everyone wants to build something, a dream, a relationship, a business, a legacy. But the truth is, most of us don't stay standing long enough to see the full picture because we refuse accountability. We love freedom, we love independence, but we run from structure. We crave success, but we hate correction. We want growth, but we reject the people and the systems designed to make us grow. That's why so many of us end up tearing down what we've built, not because life took it, not because someone destroyed, but because we couldn't handle being held accountable for it. Accountability isn't punishment, it's protection. But the moment someone calls us out, tells us we're slipping, that we're not giving our best, that our attitude's changing, we take it as an attack. We say, they're hating. No, they're not hating. They're helping. But our ego is too loud to let us hear the truth. We tear down what we built because we silence the voices meant to guide us. You'll never reach greatness if you can't be corrected. Every champion has a coach. Every winner has someone who checks them. Michael Jordan had Phil Jackson. Serena Williams had a coach. Even the best need someone who says, you can do better. But when you start believing you're above correction, you stop improving. You think you're untouchable, but that's when your cracks start showing. Accountability is the mirror that shows you what you don't want to see, but need to fix. Without it, you start ignoring the warning signs, the laziness creeping in, the bad habits forming, the pride building. And one day, everything you work for starts falling apart, and you don't even see it coming. Because when you stop letting others hold you accountable, you lose sight of yourself. You ever notice how easy it is to take advice when things are going bad? When you're broke, when you're struggling, when life humbles you, you'll listen to anybody. But the moment you get a little success, Suddenly you know it all. You stop listening to your mentors. You stop showing up on time. You stop taking feedback seriously. And little by little, the same arrogance that came after success becomes the reason for your downfall. Accountability keeps you grounded when success tries to lift you too high. Some of you are praying for a breakthrough, but God won't give it to you because you still can't take correction. Why would he trust you with more when you can't manage what you already have? You keep tearing down your own progress. Every time someone tries to build you up, your boss gives you feedback, you get defensive. Your partner tells you the truth, you walk away. Your friend says you're changing, you cut them off. You're not losing people because they're toxic. You're losing them because you won't take accountability. You say you want better, but better requires discipline. And discipline doesn't always feel good. Sometimes accountability stings because it exposes what we're trying to hide. It calls out our excuses. It holds up a mirror and says, you can't lie to me. And that's exactly what we need. The greatest version of you will never appear until you can handle the truth about yourself. Accountability is what shapes your character, sharpens your focus, and protects your future. But we live in a culture that runs from responsibility. We want the glory, not the grind. We want the credit, not the correction. We love to say, I built this. But the moment someone says, you could have done it better, we tear it all down out of pride. That's why relationships fail. Teams fall apart. Dreams die. It's not because they didn't have potential. It's because nobody wanted to be held accountable. We'd rather be right than be real. Think about it. If you build a house and never inspect it, never check the foundation, never fix the cracks, it's only a matter of time before it collapses. Accountability is that inspection. It's uncomfortable, it's inconvenient, but it saves you from destruction. Yet we'd rather live in denial than deal with discomfort. We tell ourselves, I'm fine, even when the roof is leaking. And when it all falls apart, we blame the weather, not the weak foundation we ignored. Sometimes accountability hurts because it comes from people who see what we can't. They see our blind spots. They see the parts of us that still need work. But instead of being grateful, we get offended. We say, they don't understand me. But maybe they understand you better than you understand yourself. Maybe they see the cracks before you do. Accountability isn't your enemy. It's your lifeline. Without it, you're just wandering in circles, repeating the same mistakes, calling it progress. When you surround yourself with yes men, people who only tell you what you want to hear, you're building on sand. The moment pressure comes, everything collapses. You need people who will tell you the truth, even when it hurts. You need a team that says, no, you're slipping. You need mentors who hold you to a higher standard. Accountability doesn't weaken you. It strengthens you. It forces you to stay sharp, stay humble, stay hungry. Some of you are tearing down what you built because you confuse accountability with control. You think people are trying to limit you, but they're actually trying to lift you. They're saying, I see more in you. They're trying to protect your dream from your ego. They're trying to keep you from losing everything you've worked for. But your pride says, I got this. And pride always leads to destruction. You can't grow in isolation. You can't build something great without checks and balances. Even the strongest structures need support beams. Even the most skilled athletes need coaches. Even the most talented leaders need feedback. Accountability isn't optional. It's essential. Without it, you're building with blindfolds on, hoping it doesn't fall. If you've ever found yourself rebuilding the same thing over and over, the same dream, the same goal, the same life, maybe it's because you keep tearing it down by running from accountability. Every time someone tries to correct you, you push them away. Every time someone offers help, you see it as criticism. But the truth is, growth feels uncomfortable because it's stretching you. Correction feels heavy because it's lifting you higher. Don't let your feelings make you destroy your foundation. The next time someone calls you out, don't get defensive. Get reflective. Ask yourself, are they wrong or am I just uncomfortable? Growth doesn't come from praise. It comes from pressure. You can't be sharpened without friction. The people who challenge you the most might be the ones saving you from yourself. We tear down what we build because we want control without correction. But you can't have both. You either stay teachable or you stay broken. You either allow accountability to shape you or you let pride destroy you. You can't build greatness on your terms alone. True success is built through feedback, humility, and continuous improvement. You say you want legacy. Then stop rejecting the people who want to help you protect it. You say you want success, Then stop avoiding the systems that demand discipline. You say you want to grow, then stop tearing down the structure that helps you grow. Accountability isn't a prison, it's a guardrail. It keeps you from driving your dream off the edge. There's a reason every great story has a mentor, every champion has a coach, every hero has a guide, because nobody rises alone. You need someone to keep you focused when your emotions get loud. You need someone to remind you of the mission when your mind gets weak. You need people in your corner who aren't impressed by your success. They're invested in your growth. Stop tearing down what you've built by rejecting the truth. Start embracing accountability as your greatest advantage, because when you allow others to challenge you, correct you, and hold you to your highest standard, you stop destroying your own progress and start becoming unstoppable. It's easy to start something. It's easy to feel inspired at the beginning when the dream is fresh, the energy is high, and everything feels possible. But the truth is, building something is not the hardest part. Maintaining it is. That's where most people fall apart. They put all their effort into the construction, but once it's standing, they stop doing the work that keeps it alive. That's why we tear down what we build. Not because we didn't have the strength to start, but because we didn't have the discipline to sustain. Anybody can start going to the gym when motivation hits. Anybody can start a business when excitement is high. Anybody can promise change when life gets hard. But how many can keep showing up when it's no longer exciting, when nobody's cheering, when results take longer than expected? Maintenance is the real grind. It's the quiet, unglamorous work that separates dreamers from doers, starters from finishers. Most people don't fail because they didn't start. They fail because they stopped maintaining. When you first begin something, everything feels new. You're fueled by passion, by the vision of what could be. But as time goes on, that energy fades, and what remains is the test of your commitment. Do you still have the same fire when the lights are off? Do you still show up when it's inconvenient? That's what determines if you keep what you've built or watch it fall apart. The foundation of success isn't built in the moments of excitement. It's built in the moments of maintenance. You see, building is emotional, but maintenance is intentional. Building gives you adrenaline. It makes you feel alive. You're chasing progress. You're seeing growth. You're getting attention. But once the building stands, once the business runs, once the relationship stabilizes, once the goal is reached, that adrenaline fades. And now you're faced with the boring, repetitive daily task that nobody sees but everyone needs. That's when people get lazy. That's when they stop giving 100%. They tell themselves, I already made it. And that's exactly when they start tearing down what they built. The same energy you use to start something is the energy you need to keep it going. But the problem is, we treat maintenance like it's optional. We think once we've achieved something, it'll sustain itself. But nothing in life sustains itself. Not success, not health, not love, not faith. Everything requires work. You can't eat one healthy meal and expect to stay fit. You can't say I love you once and expect a relationship to thrive. You can't pray once and expect spiritual strength to last a lifetime. The moment you stop maintaining, decay begins. Think about it like this. A garden doesn't stay beautiful just because it was planted. You have to water it, prune it, protect it from weeds. If you stop taking care of it, it won't just stay the same. It'll deteriorate. That's exactly how dreams work. You can't build a business, walk away, and expect it to keep growing. You can't reach your goals, stop working, and expect progress to continue. Maintenance is a daily decision to protect what you've already earned. The reason people struggle with maintenance is because it's not glamorous. Nobody posts about it. Nobody applauds it. Maintenance doesn't make headlines. It happens in the dark, in silence, in the hours when no one's watching. It's waking up early even when you don't have to. It's staying disciplined even when no one will notice if you don't. It's checking the foundation, tightening the screws, fixing the cracks before they turn into disasters. Maintenance is humility. It's saying, I'm not above doing the small things that keep me great. And that's where many of us fail. We think we've outgrown the basics. We start skipping steps. We stop training. We stop learning. We stop evaluating. We think because we built something, it'll hold itself up. But that's not how success works. Success is not a destination. It's a responsibility. The higher you go, the more maintenance it takes to stay there. Every level of success demands a higher level of upkeep. Some people lose what they built, not because they were weak, but because they got careless. They let small cracks turn into major breaks. They ignored warning signs. They stopped listening to feedback. They thought maintenance was beneath them. And the moment you think you're too big for maintenance, destruction is on the way. You can't pour everything into building something and then neglect it. If you worked hard to get it, you've got to work harder to keep it. Look at professional athletes. They don't train hard just to make it to the top. They train even harder to stay there. Champions understand that maintenance isn't a punishment, it's protection. It's how you keep what others are trying to take from you. When you build a business, you've got competitors coming for your spot. When you build your body, you've got age and laziness trying to slow you down. When you build your character, you've got temptation trying to break you. Maintenance is the only thing that keeps the wall standing. But too many of us get comfortable once we've built something. We stop checking for leaks, stop reinforcing the structure, stop improving. And slowly, the dream we once protected starts collapsing. The same principle applies to relationships. It's easy to fall in love. It's hard to stay in love. You can't build a strong bond and then stop putting effort into it. You can't assume it'll maintain itself. Relationships need communication, attention, appreciation, daily maintenance. The moment you stop investing in them, they start crumbling. Not because they weren't meant to last, but because you stop maintaining what you built. Even your personal growth needs maintenance. You can't read one book and think you're done. You can't reach one goal and stop evolving. Life is about constant refinement. Every day you're either maintaining or decaying. There's no middle ground. You're either protecting your progress or letting it slip away. Maintenance is the difference between momentum and mediocrity. It's easy to lose something you didn't work for, but it's painful to lose something you built with your own hands. And yet that's exactly what happens when we neglect maintenance. We start slipping in small ways, skipping one workout, delaying one project, missing one meeting. And before we know it, the discipline that once made us strong is gone. Success doesn't fall overnight. It fades slowly through neglect. That's why you've got to stay vigilant. Maintenance is about staying aware. It's about not letting complacency creep in. It's about asking yourself, what do I need to protect today? Because if you're not maintaining, you're decaying. If you're not checking your habits, they're drifting. If you're not renewing your mindset, it's getting stale. Maintenance is how you honor the blessing you've been given. The people who last, the ones who stay great, they don't get tired of maintenance. They embrace it. They understand that mastery isn't about doing something once. It's about doing it consistently. They show up whether they feel like it or not. They treat every day as a chance to reinforce their foundation. They don't let success make them lazy. They respect the grind that got them there, and they keep grinding to stay there. Maintenance requires humility, consistency, and self-awareness. It's about understanding that success is fragile, and if you don't protect it, you'll lose it. You can't take your hands off the wheel just because you've reached the highway. You still need to steer, still need to watch the road, still need to fuel the engine. Maintenance is how you make sure your journey doesn't end prematurely. So many people pray for more, but they're not taking care of what they already have. You want a bigger platform, but you're neglecting the one you've got. You want more money, but you're not managing what you already earned. You want better opportunities, but you're not maintaining the ones you've been given. Why would life give you more if you can't maintain what's in your hands? Maintenance is the test that determines if you're ready for the next level. You can't keep building if you keep letting things fall apart. You can't keep starting over because you refuse to sustain. The strength isn't in the starting, it's in the staying. Anybody can start, but those who win are the ones who commit to daily maintenance, even when nobody's clapping, even when nobody's watching. Maintenance is the proof of your maturity, your discipline, and your gratitude. If you built it, protect it. If you dreamed it, sustain it. If you work for it, maintain it. Because nothing in life will keep itself standing if you stop putting in the effort. The real champions aren't the ones who build the tallest towers. They're the ones who keep those towers standing when the storms come. Maintenance is what turns success into legacy. Sometimes the scariest thing in life isn't failure, it's success. Most people think they're afraid to lose, but what they're really afraid of is winning. They're afraid of becoming the person they were born to be. Because becoming that person means you can't hide anymore. It means you've got to let go of excuses, step into your purpose, and live at a level that demands more from you every single day. That's what terrifies people. That's why so many of us tear down what we build, because deep down we fear becoming who we were meant to be. You say you want greatness, but greatness exposes you. It forces you to confront your weaknesses, your insecurities, your laziness, your comfort. Success shines a light on everything you've been running from. That's why when people start getting close to it, they pull back. They sabotage their own progress. They start overthinking, doubting, creating chaos, not because they can't handle success, but because success demands responsibility, and responsibility requires growth. Growth hurts. So instead of rising, we retreat. Instead of becoming, we break what we built. You've seen it before. The person who finally starts doing well, finally starts getting recognition, finally starts living differently, and suddenly they start slipping. They stop showing up. They go back to their old habits, old friends, old mindset. It's not an accident, it's fear. They're afraid of the pressure that comes with elevation. They're afraid of being held to a higher standard, because when you're average, nobody expects much from you. But when you rise, the world starts watching. And that's when people get scared. Becoming who you're meant to be means letting go of who you used to be. And that's not easy. It means you can't play small anymore. You can't keep blaming others. You can't keep living on excuses. You can't keep hiding behind fear, procrastination, or pain. It means you have to own your potential. You have to walk differently, think differently, and act differently. That's heavy for some people. That's why they tear it down. Because the old version of them can't survive in the new space they're trying to build. Some people destroy their own success because success threatens their identity. They've been struggling for so long that being broken has become their comfort zone. They know how to survive pain, but they don't know how to handle peace. They know how to hustle when they're desperate, but they don't know how to stay disciplined when they're winning. They pray for doors to open, but when those doors finally open, they freeze because they realize walking through them means change, and change is scary. It's easier to stay in the struggle than to grow into the solution. Struggle feels familiar. Struggle doesn't demand accountability. Struggle gives you excuses, but success strips them all away. Success demands structure, consistency, and self-awareness. It demands that you keep your promises even when you don't feel like it. It demands that you maintain integrity when no one's watching. And when people aren't ready for that kind of maturity, they start tearing down their own blessings. They start creating problems just to feel comfortable again. That's why you see people ruin relationships that were good for them, walk away from opportunities they prayed for, or sabotage businesses that were growing. It's not always because they didn't care. It's because they were afraid of the version of themselves those things were pulling them toward. Success forces you to evolve. It requires you to leave behind the parts of yourself that no longer serve you. But some people would rather cling to their past than claim their future. Fear of becoming who you were meant to be is sneaky. It shows up in procrastination. It shows up in distraction. It shows up in self-doubt. You'll tell yourself, I'm just waiting for the right time. But deep down, you're scared of what happens when you finally take the leap. You'll tell yourself, I'm not ready, when the truth is you're afraid of being seen. You're afraid that once you step into your full potential, there's no turning back. You'll have to keep showing up, keep performing, keep growing. And that's what terrifies you. You say you want the spotlight, but the spotlight exposes flaws. You say you want leadership, but leadership demands sacrifice. You say you want wealth, but wealth magnifies your discipline or your lack of it. You say you want freedom, but freedom comes with responsibility. See, most people don't fear losing. They fear being fully accountable for what they could gain. Because once you step into your power, you can't pretend you don't know better. You can't act small anymore. You have to own everything, your actions, your words, your life. There's a reason why the process of becoming feels lonely, because not everyone is willing to face themselves. You can't become your best self surrounded by people who are comfortable being average. You'll have to separate. You'll have to elevate. And that isolation scares people. They'd rather stay in the crowd than rise above it. But that's where you destroy what you built, when you let the fear of losing people make you lose yourself. You can't keep shrinking to make others comfortable. You can't keep tearing down your progress just because growth makes you feel exposed. You have to stop running from your potential. You've already seen what happens when you don't give your all. It's time to see what happens when you do. Fear is not a sign that you're unready. It's a sign that you're standing at the edge of transformation. And if you back away now, you'll spend your life rebuilding the same broken pieces over and over again. Becoming who you were meant to be isn't supposed to feel safe. It's supposed to challenge everything about you, your mindset, your habits, your beliefs, your limits. It's supposed to stretch you until you realize what's really inside you. But most people don't make it past the stretch. They tear down what they build because they can't handle the discomfort of elevation. Growth feels like breaking at first because parts of you are breaking. The weak parts, the lazy parts, the doubtful parts. You're shedding who you were so you can become who you need to be. You have to understand, your old life will fight for its survival. The version of you that lived in fear will whisper, "This is too much." The version of you that thrived on excuses will say, "Take a break." The version of you that feared rejection will say, "Play it safe." But you can't listen to those voices. They're not warning you. They're limiting you. You can't become great by negotiating with your old self. You have to silence it. You have to choose your future self over your familiar self. If you want to stop tearing down what you build, you've got to stop letting fear make your decisions. Fear will convince you that comfort is safety. But comfort is the slowest form of destruction. It doesn't break you all at once. It erodes you piece by piece until you look around and realize you've lost everything you were working for. Fear keeps you small because small feels safe. But you weren't created to live safe. You were created to live strong. You have everything you need to become who you were meant to be. The talent, the vision, the strength, it's already there. But it will stay buried under fear if you keep tearing down what you build every time life gets heavy. Stop running from the weight. Carry it. Stop questioning your worth. Prove it. Stop sabotaging your growth. Commit to it. Every step forward will feel uncomfortable, but discomfort is not your enemy. It's your invitation to evolve. You can't be who you were and who you're meant to be at the same time. One of them has to die. The question is, which one will you choose? You can keep tearing down your progress every time fear knocks, or you can finally decide that you're done running. You can finally face the reflection that's been waiting for you. The one that knows you're capable of more, ready for more, built for more. The one that's been screaming, "Stop holding back." You weren't meant to live halfway. You weren't meant to start and stop, build and destroy. You were meant to rise. You were meant to step fully into your calling, no matter how uncomfortable it feels. Because the truth is, the version of you you're afraid to become, that's the real you. The powerful, disciplined, unstoppable version. The one who finishes what they start. The one who maintains what they build. The one who doesn't let fear dictate destiny. That's who you are. So stop tearing down what you've worked for. Stop letting fear convince you that greatness is too heavy to carry. You've already built the foundation. Now stand on it. Embrace the weight of who you're becoming. Because once you do, once you stop running and start owning your greatness, you'll realize that the thing you feared most, becoming your best self, was never a threat. It was your freedom.